a brief one for the Easter break. But welcome once again, and hope you're having a nice Easter. So let's get going as usual. Basically today I'm going to touch on about two or three news items, and then we'll go into technical analysis. And I'll give some tips on how to stay afloat, quote and unquote, in the current bear market. So let's get started without much ado. Welcome once again to everyone on Sky, on Instagram, and to people on YouTube. You're welcome to Crypto Pulse Weekly. This week, we'll be looking at a couple of regulations and the impacts on the cryptocurrency markets. And also, we'll take a look at the current technical analysis of the price of Bitcoin. And then we'll take any questions that might arise. I understand it's Easter weekend, so many people might not be around, but for people who are going to watch this later, it's also going to be a brief one as well. So let's get started as usual. So in terms of market updates today, we see that Bitcoin has refused literally to stay below the 40K level, to stay below the 39K level, and it's bounced back off 40K. If we remember about, must be earlier this year, beginning of the year / end of last year, I did mention that the price, the production costs really of Bitcoin sits around 34 to 35K. In previous times, what happens in times of quote and unquote market distress is that miners go into capitulation, in which case they start selling either at cost or below cost price. But what we've seen in recent time is that there's been consolidation and amalgamation of mining organizations. So the big ones are not only buying up the smaller ones, they're also buying up their Bitcoins. And what that means is that the big ones are mining their Bitcoin and stacking it as part of their balance sheets. And when the small ones sell their Bitcoin, the big ones are on hand to buy the dip, essentially. And the reason why this is basically due to the cash flow runway that the big miners have. So I've said this many times, I'm just going to say it again, that the big miners have raised a lot of capital in today's money in terms of debt. And what they're doing is leveraging the future value of Bitcoin against their current debts. So all they need to do is basically pay the interest. It's like paying a mortgage, an interest-only mortgage. If you have the down payment, all you have to do is pay the interest, which is usually a lot smaller in terms of cash leaving your hands than if you have to pay the principal as well. So what this is doing is essentially institutionalizing Bitcoin almost as not almost, like digital real estate. That's exactly what it's doing. And I just thought to bring it up again because I remember going to the printer where I went to pick up the banners for the flyers for the Manchester Crypto Summit. And the guy was asking me, so you're the crypto guy. So what do you think I should buy? So I told him, yeah, among other things, he said he had XRP. I said, I think you should buy Bitcoin. He said, what if XRP goes to $1? I said, I don't think so. And the guy was like, amazed. And I was like, well, you own a business, buy Bitcoin as, your savings account. It's a lot more stable. It's not pump and dump. It's not based on somebody's ideology of, what the coin is going to do in the future. It is secured digital real estate. And it got me thinking that, many times we sort of lose focus, either because, there's a lot of things happening in crypto and there are all sorts of shiny lights that come up here and there from time to time. But it's important that we do not lose sight of what is of principal importance when it comes to these cryptocurrency markets. And I say this because many times, because we have most of our bags in altcoins, we sort of forget that Bitcoin itself is the reason that we have crypto the way it is today. And when all is said and done, Bitcoin is still going to be there. So it's important that at any point in time, and I know many of us have our day job, that at any point in time, we have a percentage of our earnings that we're storing in Bitcoin. An organization, for instance, I mark anywhere between 30 and 40% of their earning for future development or what we call R&D, and they put it on their balance sheet, and they can nail it off against their taxes in the future. The reason they do that is because they want to ensure the continuity of the business. So for me, the way I view my portfolio is exactly the same way I view the business. That there has to be a certain fraction of this portfolio that is sitting in, quote and unquote, stable assets. In this case, Bitcoin will serve as stable asset because we've seen that we're not going to see the kind of wild fluctuation in prices that we've seen in previous years. It's obvious. I mean, some people have said the bull run is over. The bull run was over. We never got to 100K. We didn't even get to 70. And some people have been calling 10K. Some people have been calling 15K Bitcoin. I don't think that's going to happen because, one, just on the verge of, on the basis of historical data, when you get to the depth of the bear market, the price is still usually higher than the peak of the former bull market. So if you take 2017, 2018, and wind all the way back to 2013, you find out that the peak of 2013 was Bitcoin was just over 1,000 plus. That was the peak. By the time we got to 2017, 2018, Bitcoin was 19K plus. And even in the worst dip, which I think happened in December 2018 and I think that was March 2020 when the COVID crash happened, we never got as low. I do not think we're going to see 20K. It's at this point, I think it's practically impossible that we're going to see 20K. I mean, on some exchanges that don't have enough liquidity, maybe the price might gap down. But generally speaking, I don't think so. And the reason is this is very straightforward. Not only do we have people who have orders sitting at 25K, some people, for instance, are waiting for the CME gap that got wiped out in December of 2020. They're still waiting for that CME gap at 23K or thereabouts. So for the people who trade, institutional traders who trade gaps, their orders will be sitting there in millions or billions of dollars. So if the price ever got down to that level, it's just going to snap back up. But the reason I don't think the price is going to go to that level is because we are seeing, even as I speak to you now, the lowest level of exchange volume for Bitcoin. So exchanges are still losing their balances. The number of holders has not shifted for the longest time in the history of Bitcoin. So 67% of people who are holding as at this time last year are still holding. That is not a normal blockchain picture that you see during the bear market. During the bear market, everything goes silent. People, either the people that want to capitulate, you capitulate and sell, and activity goes down on the blockchain network for Bitcoin. Or you have, people that have sold, not opening their wallet again until the next bull run. But what is happening actually is that there's a steady increase in the accumulation wallets, and the wallets that are accumulating Bitcoin on the blockchain are not selling. So if that's not happened, it tells me two things. It says to me that yes, we might be in a bear correction, but it's also a bullish bear correction. And I'll explain that a bit when we get to the charts, because what it also means is that almost every worst case scenario that could happen this year has already happened. So there was the initial fears that, okay, we've reached the end of the bull run. As a result, everybody was going to sell off. Everybody sold off at 60K as much as they could. Then there was the fear of interest rates. People sold off on that. Then there was the Russia-Ukraine war. People sold off on that. Then there was the fear of, global famine. That's already been priced into the market now. I mean, if the war continues, which is very likely for the next few months, then there will be famine. I'm not a prophet of doom, but it's just basic supply chain and logistics. The two countries involved are the biggest, combined, are the biggest producers of grain in the world. So it will be very difficult for that conflict to go on. There are tons and tons, metric tons of grain that is locked up in Ukraine right now that can't be shipped because of the war. So if this continues, as it's likely to, you can expect some impact in terms of food security, and especially for our folks in Nigeria. I think you should, what do they call that word now? You should brace yourself enough. Like I told someone, I said, buy enough gari and buy enough beans and put pepper inside so that weevils will not get the best of it. Because I think there's going to be some significant impact in terms of the prices of food commodity all over the world, and also in Nigeria. And I think Nigeria is not going to be spared because we buy a lot of those stuff unknowingly from Ukraine and Russia. I don't know how we got into those trade agreements, but apparently that's what it is. So it's important that we keep that in mind. It's also important that we expect a number of shocks in the market. So that farming, once they start announcing, that there's going to be farming and all that, there will be some shocks in the markets. Price of food will, on what's it called? Oh, I didn't know it's happening in Nigeria already. Yeah, on the global exchanges, the price of wheat, barley, all of those stuff will start growing up because there isn't any grain. And Europe is going to feel the pinch too, because the number one wheat producer, Ukraine, for them, it's no longer able to produce and supply them. So these are supply and demand dynamics that are not, they're not part of the normal market cycle. And they're all happening right now at the price of Bitcoin is still 40K. That is really, really significant. If that is not bullish, I don't know what else can be as bullish as worse and as bad as whatever adjective actually warned out. It's impacted even Ukraine, and it's impacted Russia than I expected that it will. And if this continues, because they will need to retaliate, now they bombed one of their old biggest ships, warships. They will need to retaliate at some point. So they'll probably continue shelling Mariupol and all those other places. So what I'm saying is the market is pricing in a lot of things. Another thing is the interest rates discussion in the US. Because of the interest rate discussion in the US, or the cutting of interest rates, what it means for the market is that if the dollar becomes progressively attractive. And what that means is that 5-year bond and 10-year bond, which is packaging of government debt for sale, will become more attractive to investors who have a lot of money. And we're talking institutional investors with billions and billions. So really and truly, 1% for them is already more than enough. So somebody has 100 billion. 1% of 100 billion is $1 billion. That's if they get 1%, they're fine. In the real sense of it, they're fine for the year. So why did they trade in risk-on assets like Bitcoin and stocks? They can just the bond market and leave it there. So because of that, as the government increases the rate, towards those investments, but there is also the risk of a recession backlash. Of which, if there is a recession backlash, then the money printer goes all over again and starts printing. What does this mean in simple man's language? In simple man's language, war brings famine, famine brings scarcity. Scarcity means there's less money to spend. So less money to spend, and all this scenario means prices will be low, generally speaking. And generally speaking, the reason the price of crypto like Bitcoin is hovering around this price is because it should have been higher. It's supposed to be a lot higher than this. But because of all this thing being priced into the market, the price is sitting at unbelievable discounts. You can quote me anywhere. This is 2022. In 2 years' time, the price of Bitcoin will definitely not be anywhere close to what it is now. And people will be like, oh, if we had known that time, we should have been buying a lot. But really, like I told you last week, this is the time to buy. Even for some major altcoins, this is the time to buy. I told somebody last week, I said, no, during the week, I said, buy CRO. And the guy was like, what did you say to say buy CRO? I said, well, just trust me if I say buy CRO. Because CRO is beginning to look to me the way BNB was back in 2017, 2018. BNB was given as free by airdrop at the beginning. At some point, it was selling in cents. And if you start to dig into what's going on in the ecosystem for CRO, by the time it bubbles to the surface, the utility will become extremely high. So if you're on this call, or if you're on Instagram, or if you're watching on YouTube, it's not a financial advice, of course, but I tell you, buy CRO and stake for the next 2 years. It might make you a millionaire. It's not, as I said, it's not a financial advice, but I think I've seen some things in that ecosystem that's going on that people are now aware of, and by the time it blows out to the open, it will be too magnificent. I mean, CRO is 30 cents now. CRO starts selling at $3. That's 100x from today's price. Anyways, let's get into the short news that I have today. Let me not go into too much, but yeah, that's my immediate thought about 39K held. It didn't break down 39K. I said last week that if we flip 40K, that the bullish case is invalidated. In fact, many people came to me and said, market's going to go down. Some people said they are waiting to buy Bitcoin at 30K in June. From a metric standpoint, meaning when you're measuring the number of days between peak cycle and low cycle, 2022 June will be like the end of 2018 for Bitcoin. So it will be like where you're supposed to have the lowest point. At this point, it's difficult to speculate whether we'll get to 30K. Even if we got back to 30K in June, just know that that's the bottom for the whole of the cycle, and the price is likely to keep going up. But right now, I think we're still going in a bit higher before coming down, and I'll show you on the chart while I think we're still coming higher. And it's interesting that the analysis that I've done since mid-January is still holding steady. It's still holding, especially on daily chart, it's still holding intact. Exactly as how with envisioned that the market would play out, like it was playing. So in terms of sentiments, it's very rich right now, but I think that it's just for a short while. I think we'll see some volatility in the month of April before the month ends. And I think May will be May. So if May pumps very hard, then we can expect a dump in June. If May goes sideways, then end of May will be a dump, then things will start picking up from June. That's my assessment. But whichever way, like I told my cousin, was asking me, if she could sell her crypto and buy low. I said, why do you want to sell? He said, so that she can buy more low. I said, but you'll have lost value. If you sold at a higher price and you're buying lower, you've lost some value of your own money in the process. That I think you should just hold and wait for the peak, wait for the impulse before trying to sell. That other than trying to sell when the price is dipping, trying to add to the position, because what it means is when the cycle flips, you're able to sell for higher profits. So in terms of regulation, we see Mr. Biden appoint a former Ripple advisor as the banking supervision chief for the Apex Bank, the Fed in the United States. I think that's significant because what it means is you have somebody within the money printout, within the Fed, that knows a lot about crypto. It's a two-edged sword. I don't know the guy personally, so I can't say what its position will be like, but expectedly, people think that it will be pro-crypto and, it will make the Fed favor crypto. Well, that's just an assumption and an extrapolation. We're yet to see that. But having said that, Another interesting news was that Portugal gave the first crypto license to a bank called something digital. What's the name of this bank? Busa Digital or something like that. So they have a crypto license, and I think in the whole of Europe, Portugal is actually the most crypto-friendly European country. It's also a tax haven for. In fact, I was having a discussion with one of these very popular YouTube broadcasters in the UK, and I was asking him what he thought about setting up a crypto business in the UK. He said no, that he thinks Portugal is a better place. They have already, nice framework and infrastructure on ground for anyone who wants to invest. So I think this is it's a good development. Moving on to other news, let me just skip on. Yeah, this is my assessment on. This is my assessment last week to tell you that the on-chain picture is not different. Two other news. If you know Robinhood, you know Robinhood is a trading app that many people use to buy stock. They added about 4 tokens. I think everybody saw the news during the week. What this is going to do is that the next round of surplus money, as I like to put it, is going to mean that a lot of people will have direct access to purchase crypto from a stock app. The impact of that is going to be significant, because what it then means, especially because US has a lot of buying power, and that buying power is what you usually see in Coinbase app when the price of Bitcoin is going up. The Coinbase app crashes because everybody wants to buy. Now that you have a major player like Robinhood stepping up to the game, it's going to be even more and more significant in terms of the impact on the market. So again, as I've said, the time to be wealthy actually is the time when the markets are down. And like is it Rothschild that said it, or I can't remember, that when there's blood on the streets, that's the time to be on the market. That even if the blood is yours, go ahead and buy. Of course, it's a counterintuitive gesture to start making deals when there is a bust, because your brain tells you that everything is shattered. But understand that everything is in cycles. So before the 2008-2009 crash, we had the 2000.com boom and bust. Before that time, I think it was 93. After 2008, we had COVID in 2019, 2020. So there are cycles, and there are peaks and there are troughs. The COVID era up to now is a trough in the cycle. In another 2 to 3 years, there will be a boom. If you've not accumulated during the bust, there will be nothing to harvest during the boom. Just like if you don't have, if you don't have seed in the ground before the rain starts, then there's nothing for the rain to work on. I mean, talking from a farmer's perspective now. I think that you can use Robinhood app. I think so. Check on outside North America. Check on what's the name? Check on Google Play. What's the storehouse? I mean, I said storehouse. The Google App Store, whatever the name they call it, the Android App Store. Check on it. You might be able to. If you're not able to, you might want to download a VPN app. A number of VPN apps that you can download that will mask your phone's location and allow you to use it. Another option for you, well, the only other thing is let's talk about it. Let's talk about it later, Dr. Larry. I have some thoughts, but let's talk about it later. But generally speaking, for anybody who's in Nigeria or West Africa, I mean, it goes without saying, you should keep your treasures digital at this point. Like, very extremely important. Like, there's nothing more important than that right now, because when the world economy suffers, the poor nations suffer the most, and that's exactly what's going to happen this year. I think there's going to be some very, very harsh conditions, especially in places like Nigeria. But let's go on. Okay, I talked about SEC last week. Yeah, let's just go to the chart before I close for today. I didn't have too much plan for today because I also want to be with the family for Easter. But let me just say some things here in terms of what we were looking at before the year or at the beginning of the year. I think that was around this was 24th of January and this was 21st of May, Feb. So when this started happening, I remember saying then that I think that we're going up. And the reason I gave them back then on 21st of January was that I was waiting for the markets or the price to break through the lower Bollinger Band. Once it breaks through, the markets automatically oversold in my eyes and should continue to bounce back. And that's exactly what happened. Once it broke through and came down to 33 or 33.9, immediately bounced back up to 36, tried it once more with a long wick down to punish the leverage traders, and then we started going up. Now, when we got to 45 and came back, and we started coming down, and we came down here again to touch the lower end, I said then that it appeared that we might be forming a trend and that we might actually go and form an ascending triangle before the price burst out. But what happened instead was that instead of forming that ascending triangle, because that was when I drew this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave pattern, what has happened since then is that the price has really just gone and trailed this pattern. But instead of coming down here, which was at a triangle level of 45,500, it broke out and touched on 48. Then when it touched on 48, it started coming down. So now, instead of forming an ascending triangle pattern, it's basically formed what you call a rising channel, meaning the price is trading in a range and it's ascending. So this was the lowest bottom at 32, and this was the immediate peak at 45. The next bottom that happened at that time was 34. That was even the wick down. The average bottom was 36. So wick down to 34, back up to the same level, slightly higher now, 48, 45, 844, then back down again to 37. So we made a higher low than the previous low. And then we shot up again to make another higher high to 48. And now, this is actually where I want to draw attention. We've had the last 4 days where the price has attempted to break lower than 39K and has not succeeded. And if you observe, I drew a trend line a few weeks ago. That trend line from January is what the price appears to be sitting on now, and it's not broken. In another vein, there was another trend line that came from 25th of December that appeared to be broken out of, essentially. That trend line now is where the price is sitting. So the price is sitting between each two trend line, looking like we're going to have what we call it a bear flag, meaning the price looks like it's going to break down to the downside. But it apparently was a fake out today. If I open the shorter time frame, you see what I'm saying. But this triangle is getting closer and closer. So either today, tomorrow, Sunday, or Monday, I expect that there'll be some explosive moves. My bet is on the upside, because if it's following what we've seen so far, it means we'll have an upside move. If we do have an upside move of this manner, I think 51,200 is our next target. And that's attainable. Let's see. That's attainable in the next 15 days, actually. Price and date. Let's see. So if we say taking the, 16 to 30 days, yeah. Usually it goes faster than that. I mean, this one, this went like 5 days and it was quickly at the top. So it depends. It could take 15 days and it could take a lot shorter in terms of time to reach this target. But this is the target I'm expecting for us to have the next stop. It's significant on two levels, because this target was last reached in December. So when the price gets here, I expect to be a reaction that the price will come down. And starts trending downwards again. How low it will get when it gets here, I don't know. But this is an ascending channel that I think is beginning to form. Why is it an ascending channel? Let me show you. If you pick the price from here and look at this line, you see that there seems to be a measured move between the zigzag and the parallel lines. So when you have price moving in that range, in an upward direction, it's usually regarded as an ascending, the price structure known as ascending channel. So if it keeps within the channel, which it looks like it's doing right now, then I can expect that again. See, it's 50,000. Even just by drawing this line roughly, it's 50,000 here. It's 50,700 here. It's 51,000 here. So depending on when it hits the roof of the channel, in this case, I expect to see 51,000. That's why I said that it was a good time to buy. This is a good time to buy both Bitcoin and altcoins, even for the very short term. You can buy now and sell in a few weeks' time because almost invariably it's going to break upward. If it doesn't break upward from this time, if it breaks downward, then I'll be worried because it means that the price is heading much more lower than we've seen in the last 4 months, essentially. But my dips is on the price going higher, even though there doesn't seem to be any bullish momentum anywhere. But based on market structure, price action, and what's happening on the blockchain, I think the price is gearing for the next move higher. Not significantly higher, as I said, because we're not in the peak of the bull run. There's so much crisis going on. There's interest rate cuts, and there's so many other things that have been priced into the market. So now all those factors are weighing down on the price, almost like gravity, holding down the price. So I don't expect that we're seeing this kind of moves anytime soon because there are too many uncertainties. We're not really uncertainty, but there are too many factors. So if you check commodities price, that was a very interesting episode that happened in, I think it's in the nickel market. Yeah, it was nickel. Yeah, in the nickel market about 2 weeks ago, the exchange needed to shut down, freeze the orders of everybody, then roll back to about 2 days earlier because the big institutions are going to get short squeezed and wiped out. Well, that's another story for another day. But those kind of volatile moves are because of this kind of periods that we're in. So as I said, just a word of advice for everyone: please keep your assets digital. Buy a lot of food long term because I don't think even we in the UK are going to be spared. I'm going to start stacking up on food seriously in May because I think food prices are going to go up. And I think it's going to affect everybody. So if you have good storage, you might want to consider buying a lot of food for a few months, not a few months actually, significant amount of months coverage. Because in terms of food security, the world is not looking good. I'm not going to kid you. I mean, this is the crypto forum, but this affects a lot of things because if the amount of money you're disbursing for food is too much, you don't have any disposable income. So candid advice is to please layer up on your storage of food you can keep for the long term, because there is going to be at some point this year we're going to feel the impact of all these supply chain disruptions when it comes to food security. The price of Ethereum is similar to what Bitcoin is doing. The only difference is that there seems to be some resilience. And the resilience has probably been because people feel that there was some sort of Ethereum, they call it the merge. There's a protocol upgrade that's supposed to happen. So people are sort of anticipating that. But generally speaking, I think that Ethereum has been quite resilient. There seems to be a lot of institutional buyers just waiting below 3K. So every time the price dips to 3K, they get mopped up. It dips again, it get mopped up. On a weekly chart, it looked as if the price is going to crash. Let me show you what I mean. If you look at the weekly chart, it looks like the price is going to crash down because it's tried to go up. It's taking a correction. In fact, if I drill a reverse fib, what it's saying, the reverse fib is that this price is going to go as low as 1,000. In fact, as low as $400. But there are two factors. One, this week has not ended. So this is a temporary structure. I can't count on this because this week has not ended and it's not going to end until Sunday morning. I mean, Monday morning. So because of that, this is not a permanent structure. It could as well end in a green candle, in which case the price is sitting at like 3,300, in which case it invalidates this pullback completely. And then it will become an ascending structure instead of a descending structure, which then puts the targets at around 3,000 and 4,000. So again, I'll stick with the daily for now because that's the one we have. And from the recent swing high to swing low, what we're seeing is the price is testing 50% golden fib ratio. So we expect to see 3,800 near term, or at least all-time a recent high of 3,005. But again, the price is quite resilient. I think that in terms of other crypto, I think Cardano is going to see a jump because now they're integrating stablecoin into their network. I don't know what they were waiting for. I disbursed all my Cardano not because Cardano is, public disclaimer, but Cardano is a very good project, solid technology, solid peer review mechanism, very, very detailed quality review process. But the tokenomics is not just good enough for me as an investor. But Cardano is all right. If you want to buy Cardano, I think there'll be a price jump in Cardano in a few days. Of course, Dogecoin is jumping because Elon Musk wants to buy Twitter. Again, trade only money you can afford to lose on Dogecoin. Dogecoin is producing 10 billion units every day. So that's more than the money printer is printing for the US government. So do with that information what you will. So for those who want to ask me about what token they can buy, I've said CRO. And the reason I said CRO is because, of course, I told you about my infamous CRO story, how I missed the chance to become a millionaire because of CRO, because I sold my CRO early. I think that we might see a 10x move. I'm not sure, and it's not a financial advice, but I sincerely think that from the current prices to the next 3 years, I think we might see a 100x move in the price of sale. 10x will take us to 10x will take us to $3. So 100x will be like $30. I think $10, maybe. Let's be conservative. That's 30x. I think we're going to see that kind of move in CRO. The other thing I wanted to talk about was Manchester Crypto Summit on the May 2nd, which is the bank holiday for Workers' Day, as they call it in Nigeria. It's called Spring Bank Holiday here in the UK. I will employ everybody to sign up. I will share the ticket details online from this weekend. I will ensure everybody to sign up because I have some interesting information to share about staking and passive income during times like this, and how actually it adds up significantly, especially when it comes to staking on crypto. That's all I have for today. I think it's a good time to call it a wrap. Happy Easter to everybody. And for the Muslim guys who are on the fast, Ramadan Kareem in advance. Thank you very much, everyone. If you have a question, please, now is a good time to ask. Otherwise, I'm happy to say, have a lovely weekend.